Welcome back, folks, to this week's video, and no better time to talk about my top 5 Gears of War games, considering Gears of War E-Day just got announced at the Xbox showcase. So it's a pretty exciting time for Gears of War's fans. Let's get straight into this. So as always with these top 5 videos, you gotta remember, this is my opinion, just my opinion. Please feel free to challenge me down in the comments if you don't agree with how I have ordered these. Personally, think Gears of War has been in a bit of a weird space over the years since the original trilogy. From my perspective, my history and past with this game is that I got this as a launch title when I got my Xbox 360 back in 2007. I know this console came out in 2006. I had it a year after. I got this game and Dead Rising were the 2 games that I got, and both of those games blew me away. In particular, this one, its TPS combat was unraveled at the time, and the fact is I could play with a buddy, couch co-op, was so amazing, and that's why I fell in love with the series. So I'm glad to see E-Day take it back to its core from the looks of it. Anyway, enough, let's get straight into it. Here's number 5. So number 5 for me is Gears of War 4, and this was a return of the franchise and actually brought it to Xbox One or next gen at the time. After the original trilogy, the game actually changed hands and it became Coalition who took on the task of making a new Gears. And they succeeded in some ways and they didn't succeed in other ways. I think Gears 4's biggest problem is its pacing, especially early on. I personally didn't enjoy fighting a ton of robots for nearly a level and a half before the game actually starts getting interesting. And ironically, the game is probably one of the shortest games in the franchise as well, so that didn't help it. When it gets good though, it is a good game, and it does have some healthy multiplayer suite additions to it. Now, following on from that is Gears 5, again by Coalition at number 4. And I think they improved on the pacing in certain aspects if you enjoy it. Now, there seems to be, this came out in a time when there was a bit of a Microsoft template in how to kind of create these semi-sub open worlds. Some people enjoyed these segments, some people didn't. I personally didn't mind them, but they kind of suffered slightly from some padding. Overall, however, I think it's a vast improvement from Gears 4, and when it focuses on, in particular, the main campaign missions, it kind of focuses down and becomes a little bit more linear, and that personally when I enjoyed the game the most. Also, it's technically gorgeous. It's still one of the best looking games on the Series X. It actually got an upgrade from 1X at the time. It's got a massive multiplayer suite as well. I only really enjoy the co-op stuff, but there's a huge multiplayer community still playing this game at a competitive level, which is quite impressive. Next up, number 3 is Gears of War 2. And it being a direct sequel to Gears of War 1, it had a lot to live up to, I suppose. What should have been considered a surprise hit in a way, because it was technically a year launch title, let's say in the first year of the console's release. And what they tried to do with Gears 2 is make it bigger and more bombastic, and actually try to introduce a more emotional story. Now, Gears 1 is all around camaraderie, but it didn't really have that much emotion in it. In Gears 2, I felt that they tried to add some emotional level to it. Sometimes it paid off, sometimes it didn't. What I really enjoy about Gears 2 is how it actually expanded on the actual gameplay. Twofold, doubled down on the action, and they've done a really good job here. Now, the other great thing about Gears 2 is when it actually finally introduced Horde mode, and to be honest with you, it really is the very original Horde mode that I personally remember playing co-op with, and it kind of set a standard for every other game thereafter. So at number 2, I'm putting the original Gears of War, the one that started it all really, and revolutionized the third-person shooter at the time. Again, I don't think Microsoft even realized the hit that they had in their hands at the time, because it kind of blew up as this game came out. I was hooked on this, especially the multiplayer as well. And the fact is, it just introduced that delicious curb stomp, that chainsaw, and the overall atmosphere in the game in general was brilliant. I think the pacing in particular was so good. Memorable levels, in particular the berserker sections.
You're paired.
Yeah, that's right, asshole. Question is, who are you?
Oh shit, quiet. Don't move.
What was that?
A berserker.
She can hear us. She can smell us.
Get out of here. We gotta get fucking out of here, man.
Kill us.
Oh my God.
So folks, before we hit number 1, I want to talk about the honourable mentions here, Gears of War Judgment being one of them. Now, I absolutely love this game, and it was despised by a certain section of fans in Gears. I don't personally understand the hate this gets. I'm really a big fan of Bulletstorm, and People Can Fly made this game, and it was their own unique take on the Gears formula. It's actually more arcade in style. It essentially split the campaign into clear checkpoints, and each checkpoint was always like a little segment in itself that you could get a high score in based on 1, 2 or 3 stars. Now, if you select a higher difficulty level, and also depending on whether or not you accept to do the declassified missions or not, you could progress the whole game without doing any of them, but they were a ton of fun. They were almost like mutators to the game itself. As for the development team that handled it, as I mentioned, People Can Fly, in fairness to them, they were handed this objective to deliver a Gears game outside of the core team, and they put their own unique flavour on the Gears formula, and I respect them for that. The other honourable mention I have is Gears Tactics, was a spin-off to the series and turned it into a turn-based strategy game. I'm a massive fan. If you've not been aware on this channel, I've covered so many turn-based RPGs. This was one of those ones which had a bit of RNG involved in it. However, I think it was really well put together. It actually kind of reminds me of XCOM blended with Gears of War, essentially. And the thing about this, though, is it has a massively challenging campaign. I find a lot of these turn-based ones are really, really challenging, and they can be quite frustrating, especially early on, I found, in the campaign. But the further I got into the game, and the more characters I unlocked and the more upgrades I put into my squad or my team, it made the latter levels much more manageable. The thing as well is, if you get a unit that actually dies in the campaign, they are gone for good as well. So it puts a fair bit of risk reward scenario into the situation as well, which I really like, adds some thrill to the whole aspect of the game. Locations are all faithful to the kind of original games, and the other thing as well is it actually has a genuinely really good story too, and that involves new and interesting characters outside of the main games. So if you hadn't guessed already, my number 1 is actually Gears of War 3. Might surprise some folks, because I would have suspected a lot of these lists put Gears of War 1 first. The reason I put it first for me personally is I think what happened is the Epic Games at the time, and Cliff Bleszinski in particular, they took their learnings from Gears 1, they took their learnings from Gears 2, and made a lovely blend of nearly both games. So on a scale and scope, Gears of War 3 a lot of the time reminds me of Gears 2. However, they perfected it. It's just much more varied. The combat is much more improved all around. And at the same time, it also improves on the character, emotional, story-driven aspects of Gears 2 and vastly improves on it from Gears 2 in particular. The other aspect of it is there are downtime moments that really remind me of Gears 1 also. So it's nearly like they've blended both games, found what was good in both games, and made what I would consider one of the best Gears games available. And the great thing about it is, at the moment, is it's 4K 60 FPS of a Series X if you have a Series X. I hadn't actually played it for a while, up until the point of having to prepare for this video. The game looks gorgeous again. I've been really enjoying replaying it. I actually want to try and get in and maybe get a couple of streams going, just to play a couple of games of Gears, just for the laugh, sometime in the near future. But overall, for me, it's definitely Gears of War 3, and I'm really hoping that with the new Gears D-Day or E-Day, that they do something really akin to Gears of War 1 and or 3, and bring us kind of back to the roots and the core of what made the franchise very good from the beginning. I suppose let's get chatting in the comment. I want to know what folks think. Do you agree with my list? What's your top 5? And should I have put some of the honourable mentions into the ranking? Let me know your thoughts. Have I missed any games? There are the games that I have experienced and played. Please let me know down in the comments. Get chatting. Let's get talking about it. And yeah, if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed this video, please do consider supporting my work by liking and subscribing. It really helps the channel. I'll see you next week for next week's video. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.